Finance and Facilities Committee meeting to order on October 7th, 2025. Roll call is not necessary, so we'll go into the first agenda item, which is the budget information and discussion. No action is taken, and Nathan will explain that, but you should all have some information on the proposed budget. I see that the proposed budget was posted in the paper. I did see that. So Nate, at this time, I'm gonna turn it over. Do all of you have a copy of the proposed budget that was, okay?
All right. Thank you for this time to go over this before we bring this to the whole board next week for a budget hearing. What I worked off of is what Ken Mishler and Mary Blaha used for the initial the initial budget that was proposed on July 1st. I worked with them over the last several months to work on revisions. So Mary Blaha from Baird and then Ken actually worked out that both of them were in the building at the same time. Well, one of the days when we were working on this. So it is still a projection. We still don't have all of our firm numbers yet, but we're getting close. If you take a look at the bulleted list in the memo, you can see that there's an awful lot going on in the school finance world this time of year. October is a very busy time of the year, so today is the 7th, so that's when we're gonna talk about the proposed budget with you all at the facilities committee. We'll take it next week back to the full board for the budget hearing. The next day, that's when DPI is going to be sending out their general aid certification. So then we will know what the state's going to be sending to us in terms of aid, what our revenue cap's gonna be, and what will turn around that next week for the 22nd is to come back to the board to set the property tax levy. So a lot going on.
Just a note on the bullet, it's Wednesday, October 22nd, not Tuesday. The bullet shows Tuesday is Wednesday, October 22nd.
Got it.
Thanks.
All right. So, one of the things, two of the items I'm gonna call out before we start going into that, the committee meeting prior to this, approved more staffing for special ed. So that was one of the things that we shifted money around for, is special education staffing. So we did a larger transfer in Fund 10. Fund 10, that's where we spent, what's what we used to pay for most of the things in the school district, to Fund 27, that is our special education fund. There's a $900,000 fund balance deficit for this year because the board approved $900,000 for the baseball field. Other than that, this is a balanced budget. And I don't, we'll make adjustments based on what we see come October 15th. But I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be in a situation to move forward with a balanced budget other than that $900,000 for the baseball field. Before I move ahead to start going through this, does any of you have any questions? Okay, Fund 10. So same format that Ken used back in July. You can see that we're spending less on salaries and employee benefits. Part of that, or not part of that is happening because we took action to right-size staffing inside of the district. So you're going to see those changes. Our insurance and the one that sticks out the most, a 68.97% increase under insurance and judgment. That is because of the boost that we got for our property, our commercial property insurance. That's where that's going to. The first part of our tax levy is towards the bottom. after the revenue, so our total tax levy for Fund 10, that's gonna be one part of it. The last few years, Fund 10 was the entire levy. Now we have debt, so now we have, now we have a levy for debt, so that's going to make up part of it. If you look at, the change, it was just 0.3% between the Fund 10 levy this year and the Fund 10 levy last year. We have to, factor in what we're, levying for Fund 39 for the debt for the $25 million for building upgrades, into our total tax levy. So the number that Lee and I talked about is, looking at a 3% increase for cost of living, just basic, increase on the levy to help pay for that and to pay for all the other things we gave we got a step change, it got raised. So we're looking for ways to bring that back. So yeah, and if you look right under, use of fund balance for 24-25, we were able to, it's an unaudited number, but $1.119 million went back into the fund balance. One of the things that I'll talk about now and into the future is really making sure we're taking care of our fund balance. When it comes to, down the road, when we need to, do more work in our schools, when we do that ratings call with Moody's, one of the things that we can, the only thing that we can really control is our fund balance, and they're looking for something that's approaching 30% of revenue. We're about 30%, we're about 28% of expenditures, so it's a little different number that's commonly used in the state to calculate fund balance, but it's continues to be a healthy fund balance. It's kind of a little kind of like a wash from last year to this year with what we're putting
So
into the
basically, are
baseball
we
field.
under levy right now for this coming?
Yep, I'll get to that kind of like at the end.
Okay.
Culminating everything, when I talk about some other numbers.
Okay,
So,
good.
so that's Fund 10, and then like I call it out in the notes, the $900,000 is for the baseball field. Fund 21, activities, money in, money out to keep all of the great things, going on in terms of clubs, co-curriculars, sports teams, things like that, like their fundraising, that's just in and out, we imagine it'll be about $300,000. And they also have a healthy fund balance, but that's the money going in to, pay for that, that extra coach, or go to pay for that conference or something like that a coach wants to go to, or for, paying for, competitions, things like that.
Student fees are not included in this?
No, not in Fund 21. That is a revenue in Fund 10.
Okay.
Okay, Fund 27, so that's special education. You'll see we have increases across the board. Salaries, benefits, purchase services, non-capital objects, just looking to find ways to support our special education department. One of the things, like, we can post jobs, we can hope we can bring people in, but then if we can't find someone to do a job, then we have to move to purchase services. So, and that, that's not free, either. So that's, I think it's important to put more money into that as well, because that's your fallback if you can't find that specific, person that's willing to work in Manitowoc with that skill set. So then, if you look under the revenue, under operating transfers in, our operating transfer in went up this year, and then state sources, we had that, this is our projected number, of $5.12 million coming in from the state, for, special ed reimbursement as compared to 3.57 last year. We're projecting like 39%. The state said 42, based on Baird looking at the numbers in terms of like what the state budget actually had in it. and like everybody's needs, you know, we're probably gonna land about, you know, 40%, something like that. It's not gonna hit 42.
And what do we have this last year, 37%?
It's like 33, yeah.
Or
yeah,
33,
yeah,
so-
yeah.
Closer to 30.
And
Yeah.
we'll know this by that 15th deadline when the state comes in with that,
Yep.
their money, we'll know for sure what they're gonna give us for special ed.
Yeah, and then fund bit, that always has to be zero. So, you know, you know, the money, you don't carry special ed money over, you can't have a deficit. You have to always even that out with your, Fund 10. So next up, Fund 38, Fund 39. Fund 38 would be if we had, debt that wasn't referendum approved. That's not our case. We are Fund 39. We have debt that is referendum approved. So in the past, this was, you know, this was just a whole bunch of zeros. You know, now we're levying for $776,534. So that's part two to the levy now. So instead of just everything Fund 10, now it's Fund 10 and it's Fund 39. So together, those two things, what we're looking at for a projected levy is $29,606,000. And that is a 3% increase over what the levy was last year. So the little, like, I don't, you know, not anything you need to work, you know, as a board member, but we don't have this, we don't have that many dollars worth of payments, but we have to get ready for a payment that comes next fall before we set the levy again. So like, we have a payment in spring and then a payment in fall before the levy.
Our first payment's in April.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And then we're gonna be, you know, we're gonna have some more debt because we have to issue another $11 million in debt.
And this accounts for,
Yeah, yep.
Of the first. Yeah, the fourth.
Of the first,
yep.
yeah. Okay. All right. So capital projects, Mike Schwarz's thing. So the money that goes in, that comes in from referendum debt, you know, I mean, that's gonna be put into Fund 49 to pay the bills. We had $5.2 million in Fund 46. So Fund 46 is like your savings account. So whereas like Fund 49 is like a checking account. That's where, you know, bills are coming in, we're paying it out of that. Fund 46, you know, back in 2015, Ken put money away, and then, you know, you had this sort of vesting time where you had to wait before you could before you could start spending it. You know, one of the neat things about Fund 46 is that if you put money into it, it automatically becomes an expenditure instead of a revenue, which helps you out with your aid. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, I always think of it, it's kind of fanciful that it's like, oh, if I leave it in Fund 10 for the fund balance, you know, for our overall savings account, it's still a revenue and it doesn't change to an expense until you spend it. Whereas if it goes into Fund 46, then it just kind of magically turns into automatically an expense because you're saying, I'm going to spend this on our buildings. So then that helps you with aid.
So the interest that we're going to get in doing our referendum monies, as was explained to us, the interest that we're gonna get off those monies, year after year after year, is gonna go into 46. It doesn't go into 10, it's gonna go into 46. The interest off that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're not, yeah, I mean, that's what it's meant for.
Okay.
Yeah, it's meant for, it's meant
So
for
again, that
capital.
money then,
It's meant for
I
capital
like I
projects.
love your analogy, it helps me a great deal. This is the savings account, goes to the checking account, so that comes in there, that interest off that money, but actually we can use that money to do more projects and pay for them out of 49.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, so looking forward to see, you know, that, so we did some work with PTMA, you know, a couple of months ago to get that money invested. And a release schedule where we draw on it when we need it, and then we'll redo that schedule come come April when we get some, we when we issue debt, then, so yeah, that's all the stuff that we are doing for our schools physically. All right, the last one, food service, just to, not to be the bearer of bad news, but we did lose $270,000, on food service last year. We feed everybody, and that comes as a cost. We have a fund balance specifically for Fund 50, that can keep that going for a couple of more years, but at some point in time, we need to figure out, whether we're gonna continue with our current program, or if we're going to, and we're going to just make that's just something that we transfer over from Fund 10 every year, and that's just how we're gonna do it, or if we're gonna go a different direction. I would say that's the number one thing that jumps out, when it comes to our Fund 50 food service.
I guess the only way I can say this is the decrease in the loss. We have less of a loss this projected.
Yes,
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Is that from some of our dinner service, or what is the reason for that?
30,000 of it would be, that was projected to earmarked, because of the reimbursement rates for, the afternoon meal or whatever you wanna call it, supper meal or whatever. Those were, so she did the math on that based off of what she thought, projection that we would do at Washington and Jefferson. And what we can do is, I would say by November or December, we probably will have a pretty good idea of what we are actually getting there. So we can have her do an updated, here's where we are and what we're expecting there. The other thing that we can do too is, with Fund 50, your deficit is very much dependent on your volume of what you're bringing through in terms of students getting their lunches or their breakfasts. So the higher volume that we have, the more money we are reimbursed, therefore that gap reduces. So those are some strategies that, we've talked with, our partners with Chartwell's, come up with ideas or strategies of how to increase participation. Because increasing the participation, you might think, well, you're there's more, you're expending more because you're serving more. Yes, but that means you're also getting more reimbursement. Yeah. So we definitely want highest participation rates as possible.
So this is a goal for Chartwell's, is to really start working to campaign to increase that.
It was one of the reasons, besides the fact that it's really, it's important and critical for our kids to have nutrition. That's the number one thing, in terms of having the nutrition that they need to learn and fuel their bodies for that. On the other side of that though, it was advantageous for us to start the program with the afternoon meals because they're reimbursed at a higher rate. They're reimbursed at around $5 a meal as opposed to $2 something, I think, on the others. So for your lunch meals or whatever. But so that was in an attempt specifically to get to reducing that, that deficit. Because like Nathan said, all this means is, we'll never reduce the gap all the way down. But if you reduce it, it's longer that this balance lasts for funding the program. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's,
And there are districts that transfer from 10 to fill the gap, but that's a decision we have to make when we have to make it.
Are we back to a breakfast program? Do we get reimbursed for that?
Yep.
Is that back in the middle schools? I know they took it off.
We do it, yep.
Okay. For a
Yeah.
while it was gone.
7:15 to 7:45, so, yeah. I'm visiting this week, that's why I know.
Page five, the special ed 22 fund, there was something caught my eye. Other revenue financing sources went from 43,000 down to 500
Federal.
Let's see.
under revenue.
I'll have to get back to you on that,
Okay.
Biff.
What is
I
it,
mean, I
Biff?
just-
What's your
It's
question?
under
Other
revenue,
revenues, yeah.
the last thing was other revenue financial sources went from 43,955 to $500.
That could be changes with money coming in from
Yeah.
COVID or something like that, but I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah,
I'll have
no, I
an-
don't know.
I'll have an answer for you. next week.
Okay, and the last page for this, the overall.
Yeah, just the
picture?
grand totals.
Yeah.
So,
One talk mill rate.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, but, just to, yeah, the grand totals for what happened last year and this year, we're, in a healthy place financially. Yeah, we're fortunate. So some of the other numbers that just don't land in the budget, but are things that we're gonna talk about now, and it'll be part of my presentation. We're looking at for equalized value for the entire district, so city of Two Rivers, county, or town of Two Rivers, same thing with Manitowoc, Newton. Valuations went up just under 11%. So we saw things kick up to about $4.522 billion for our equalized value. So the impact that has on with, we're holding the line on the levy, except, a cost of living. Our mill rate's gonna go from 7.05 down to 6.55 for an estimated mill rate right now. We'll see,
With those
there'll be some variation between now and next Wednesday, but our mill rate's gonna drop.
Only because the values increased.
But it's always it's a number that folks talk about. Yeah. So that's one piece of it. What I won't talk about under levy until Keith
Oh,
gets
cause he
back.
asked about it.
Yeah, until Keith gets back.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Skip around.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at our equalization aid's gonna be about $4.166 million. That's down from last year. We've got fewer kids. There no money, no extra money went into the equalization aid pot. The legislature really focused on the special ed funding.
Yeah.
So our current, he signed this, so maybe he's not, but so we did the third Friday was a few Fridays ago. So this is an important number for school finance because this helps drive, what our revenue cap is, how much money we can raise. Our membership, so that means students who live in the district that are attending public schools is 4,621 students. Our internal count, now this includes our students that live in town, that go here, plus open enrollment is 4344. So that's where we stood on our third Friday count. So that's where that sits, it's, it's very consistent with what we're projecting, about 75 to 100 students for this year. Now
Bill, just to remind the public
Yeah.
too, one of the reasons that this is predictable is last year's senior class was our second largest class in the district. This year's senior class is our largest class in the district. So when you're exiting 370 and you're
260.
260 in, that's your overall balance of what you can expect to lose.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of more years like that, and then things should even out a little bit, or slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But with the large number and the low number, that's where that gap comes in terms of our projections for enrollment.
So under levy, so what we're projecting right now to stay at that 3% increase on the levy is under levying by about $3 million. One of the things in context to think about, we have the operational referendum from a few years back. Last year it was $11 million. This year it's 13. 27-28, it's 15. And then the last year, 28-29, it's $17.5 million. So we have those dollars going up, every year.
Can you repeat those numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year it was 11. This year it's 13 million. Then 15 next year, and 17.5 in 28, 29. And this will be all, in the presentation next week when we go through all this stuff with the full board. So, as we work through those chunks of money, we'll work together to figure out, what we think is a fair levy, what's a fair mill rate, for the community, and knowing all the work that we have to do. We're gonna have to balance out, in the next couple of years.
But we do want to point out to the community with, I think when we use these terms of levies and mill, like the glossary of whatever these budget terms are, a lot of people don't know. So when we explain these things I think is helpful just to help people understand that really what this basically means, and you said it's 3 million something, correct?
3 million and change.
3 million and change.
3 million.
So what the taxpayers and what our community needs to know and understand, that's probably the most important, is that although they have given us the authority to take that $3 million, we are not going to take it.
And that's part of that 13 that we were using.
Yeah, we're not
taking it.
No, so we have the authority to. So as we move forward, if we continue to try to put ourselves in a financially responsible position and where we're at for the size of our school with our enrollment and all of those things, you're going to see that number get bigger each year if we're able to do the things we want to do and accomplish. Now, the other part of that though is that there's other strategies that can be taken with that. We could choose to take more of that and choose to build your fund balance up to where we want it for future borrowing. We could take more of that and put it aside in Fund 46. So there's other things we could do also. However, right now, what we're doing is what we said we were gonna do.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing, because we're looking to build trust with the community.
Yeah, and we want to get to a place, like you said, mill rate's just sort of a number based on value, but just to get a place where we make things smooth, where it's predictable, folks know what's coming ahead of time. It's been up and down and up, it's been kind of rocky the last several years, so we want to get to a place, experienced business managers that I've gotten to know, like they get it to a spot where it's just nice and smooth and it's very predictable, and you try to keep it that way so everybody knows what's up. But we're gonna have to ask some tough questions in the coming years to fix the buildings for our kids.
So what percentage of the operational referendum are we actually using?
Well, we're drawing 11 million.
Just
So
10.
we are
Well,
10
we're using 10 of
10.
the 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that's.
Yeah.
And last year we used everything,
We used
the
11.
full 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I think it's important to do what we said because of the turbulent years when it went up 20,
Yeah.
30%, and I think to build that trust again with the community and the district is important, so.
And I think anytime that we would stray, away from it, that it's a conversation with the public.
Yeah.
We want to know, we want them to know what our priorities are with that revenue. But we also want them to be supportive of it. And, I think there's great ways to get support from your community. One, I think it's given them something to be proud of. Two, I think it's always communicating the truth with them. And three, I think it's also always communicating our intent and our plans. Because we're the stewards of their investment into our community. And I think that is a critical piece of what we need to do.
being very, from a business office perspective, being very surgical on what is it we need to do our job? Not just throwing numbers out there or anything like that. What do we need to do to do the job of educating our kids. What do we need to do to fix up our buildings?
Yep, and maintain the programming, that wonderful programming that we have for our kids and the opportunities we have for them. In a district our size is, we're very, very lucky to have those opportunities. Because I talk to rural superintendents all the time, and when we're talking about making an adjustment in our budget at the levels that we have to do here, and even when these numbers come in, that would throw, I mean, that's a big percent of their total budget.
Yeah.
And so what we can do in a district this size with the investments that have been made is really prioritize and hone in on where we want to use that. Because remember, we only have 3 resources as a district. We're not like a business. We have people, money, and time. That's what we have. And for us to try to leverage all of that in the most efficient way to do the best job for kids is what our job is.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dee, for this very detailed. I like it a great deal. Thank you. Thanks for the time on that. Any other questions for him on this? If you do, write them down, and again, it'll be presented on the 14th. I would ask that if you have questions, rather than bringing them up at that meeting, get them to Nate so he's prepared for your questions.
Yeah.
So that he can answer them without saying, well, I'll get back to you. I think it's important if you have a question for a director, get that question to them so they can do the research for us. Provides for a much more flow and intelligent conversation at the meeting. And again, any questions, any more for that? Thank you. Quick facilities update.
Yeah, sure. There's a memo, and it really just lists some projects, right? So we want to make sure that everyone's aware, including our public, on what was spent out of our capital referendum this year, which amounts to a little over 2.5 million for these projects. And of course, our Lincoln roof, and the baseball field's not included in that, but it is coming along very well. I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures on the social media. It's really, I can't believe how quickly everything's happening, and they're doing a great job. So Mike was really pleased with that. We had some very rough asphalt that we needed to replace at Riverview. So when you go through there, it looks great, but it not only looks great, it doesn't go right when you drive over.
There are some big
it.
holes.
So, listen, I know right now we're looking at different things as far as our buildings and the future plans, but hey, you know what you gotta have when you live in Wisconsin? You gotta have the heat. So, we do have a boiler coming in for Washington, that is much needed. On one side, there's 2, and I think this one needs to be, replaced. Jefferson exterior building updates and playgrounds, that was done over the summer. Our district camera system has been upgraded. I've already gotten rave reviews from our safety folks, including our SROs and our administrators. With this new technology in these cameras, we have the ability to highlight someone's face and say to the camera, let us know if that person is in our school. And it will literally send an alert
That's kinda
with
cool.
that. So, and you're able to hone in and just, this camera system is going to make a big difference in terms of what coverage we have in our buildings to see what's going on, but also these little added features like, these safety provisions, which is much needed upgrade to that technology. It's been a long time since we've done anything with cameras. And then the other thing that I really appreciate, and I'll give Mike kudos even though he's not here Mike cares about the little things, and across the district, I think one of the things you may notice when you walk a path here and there is that there's some concrete work that could be done. There's some unevenness to some of our areas which have become trip hazards and things of that nature. So they've been on it, and they've done a lot of mud jacking and things with our sidewalks to make what we have in terms of pathways for our pedestrian traffic as safe as possible. So those are little things, but they're also safety things, and I just appreciate them getting them addressed. And I think he also may have left one out. When you go to Lincoln High School, another bump area, when you come up on JFK, there are a few, there's that garage door to the north of the JFK there with some side doors and a bike rack and things. That's all been blacktop there with new blacktop because it was in very, very rough shape there as well. So those are the updates as far as the the little over 2.5 million of our capital referendum borrowing that we spent this summer. We're now getting ramped up to plan for the next summer projects, which there was a rough outline, but that'll be coming through to your group here, I'd say before the end of the calendar year to know what we're gearing up for next year.
It's important to note that the title of this was referendum progress. However, the baseball field
Yeah.
was not part of the referendum.
Correct. Very important to note that, yes. That was a fund balance investment, correct.
Any other questions for the updates?
Any of those updates bring our insurance rates down?
Not yet,
Not yet,
not yet. Not
but
yet.
we're reporting
But
it
they're,
all.
Is that immediate wishful thinking there, Mr. Hanson?
Is there a way to shop as we progress?
We just shopped. So as we progress, absolutely.
yep, and M3, our insurance company, right now, they're in talks with another option for us. It's called auto insurance. But it's not just auto insurance. They insure everything. They're getting the last little bits of information. They were looking for information on school forest and getting all their last bits of data on our properties from Christina and Mike before they decided whether they wanted to quote us or not. So we're looking, that could be a change at January 1. We'll see. So
Great.
we've been waiting and seeing on that group since July, so we'll see. So
All right, 100-day plan updates for the fiscal responsibility, resource management, and operations infrastructure.
So-
Mr.
yeah, I think just in broad strokes, what I'm looking to bring with all the 100-day plans I have this year with the business office and with the other operational folks is just to bring a continuous improvement mindset. If we don't like how something's working, let's try something and let's see if trying something helps or not. So that's the Plan, Do, Study, Act process. Introducing that to the folks in the business department and trying to get that to just be a way of being. That we're not gonna spend any time, like hand wringing if something isn't working well. We're gonna come up with a plan. We're gonna try to address it. And I would say everything else, like this, right now I'm talking about this year's budget still, but like in November and December, we start talking about what the next budget is gonna be. So that's an opportunity for us to figure out, do we like the budgeting process that's gone on the last couple of years? How can what changes could we make to it? Would we want to do something completely different? Last year it was, you roll over and you add 1% here, 3% into the salaries. Is that something we want to continue? We want to do something else. So an opportunity to try something else, talk with the executive team, talk with principals and the business office to figure out if there's something better that we can do. In terms of current accounting processes, I want to get some things down, so we just, we had to work without an accountant for 2 months. I want to get things down so it's like, we have clear things that we're doing every month and clear timelines on when we're doing those things, and it's documented and we all know, so then it's just a little bit easier to just pick up and go. And then the last one, we're meeting about once a month with Lee, myself, Jessica from the IT department, and Mike with maintenance, building and grounds, just talk about ways we can work together better, where we can put processes in that can help us serve people in the district. So, just again, with a broad brush, I just want folks to think about, be solution oriented. That's what to me is most important. On a team and aligning it with the things Lee's doing with a culture of excellence is like, how are we gonna solve problems? How are we gonna make things easier on us to support our staff, our students? And in my experience, that putting those processes in place is what makes your life easier. And it's also, and what happens when your dad is an operations supervisor at a nuclear plant, it just kind of gets ground into your brain over the years, so I might, the nurture part of, it's probably ground into me as well, so yeah, that's what I'm looking at with my first 100-day plan.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions?
The PDSA cycles piqued my interest here. Some of the things, just making sure how do you know your changes resulted in an improvement? So what kind of measures
Yep.
are you gonna put in place to make sure? Usually the way you can start is pick out what's bugging everybody the
Sure.
most.
Yeah.
What's causing their most consternation.
Yep.
And if they can fix the 20% of the problems, it's gonna be 80%.
Yes, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
just kind of doing it and not trying to fix everything at once.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I noticed you had one PDSA cycle that you're gonna do for each group,
Yeah, for every person in the business office.
so every person. So
Yeah.
Each,
In their area.
okay.
Yep.
And if that doesn't work, don't stick to it that long.
Yeah, no.
If it doesn't, try a lot of stuff, but keep
Yeah,
what works.
yeah, exactly.
It is really, I like where you're going. I'd like to see some of the nuts and bolts when you
Sure.
say, this is the
Yeah.
process that we chose.
Yeah.
We liked it and this is what we implemented. Real simple, real high level.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and just an example of, one of the things that the district and the business office has struggled with over the last few years is doing bank reconciliations. So that's the one that I'm taking on. But then I'm also finding out, well, we have to have all these other things. I need to make sure all the receipts are booked in a timely fashion. I need to make sure like all these other things are lined up before I can take that next step. And so right now we're cleaning up the cash receipt process. So then I can push that forward into being able to do bank receipts and have all the information there to zero out and close out a month, so.
So you improved your cycle time on a bank receipt by X or by amount.
Sure,
Just
yeah.
those little pieces that go into
Yeah.
it to improve that process.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see.
I knew an engineer would be interested in that.
Okay, any other questions for that? Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda, voucher impact information included on the tax bill.
I see you cleared up a little spot.
Pardon me?
I see you cleared a spot.
I did.
Thank you. I
I
was just gonna go.
Did we talk about both of or did we just sit with those business ones?
Operations and infrastructure.
Operation is infrastructure, Mr. Schwartz, has developed, his 100-day plan.
Yep.
And in his absence, I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has on his, plan.
I think it's gonna be in his director's report, correct?
Yes.
But it was also in your notes, but if there's any questions, I think Mike can answer again. The directors do a tremendous job of putting their information in those reports, and if you have questions regarding those, get a hold of them. Mike's not here tonight, so if you wanna speak to him, go ahead, but I think they're going to be in his, according to my information, in his director's report.
Yeah, I just was here in case there were questions.
Right.
I mean, I didn't author it or pen it, but I can do my best stab at any questions.
Anybody have any questions for that?
They were pretty straightforward.
Yep.
The last bullet item would have been my last, let's see, where was that? The building relationships with zoning and maintenance department staff. That was the one, what kind of successes are we seeing there? Because I know there's some questions earlier on this year about salaries and some feedback we've gotten, so I just wanted to, if we can get some specifics on that and how things are going there.
Well, I can tell you that they meet regularly. I actually went to one of their last meetings, which was in August, because I talked with all of our custodian and maintenance staff about a couple of changes and also our culture of excellence. One thing to note with that, in terms of building relationships, I think one concept of building relationship is simply this, where you spend your time. And so the change that was made this year, and it was definitely shared already, but it is that our building principals are taking over supervision of custodians in their buildings again. That was the case for many years in this district. That went away and it was done centrally, it's very hard to supervise people or build relations with people from way over here in 10 different buildings. So this is going back to principals who are there every day, they know the priorities. So that is an example, in my opinion, of how we're building relationships with people, because we're gonna put people with the custodial or the custodial staff in particular that know them best and know their work every single day. And if they have issues or need support, that's their go-to person, not someone in a different building completely.
Good.
I think that the salary thing was, there was a study that was gonna be done.
Yep, we're studying all support staff. In fact, we just got some good information on a couple of sectors of that we're working through. So the goal for us on that, as Nathan pointed out, you know, the budget process for next year's budget starts real darn soon, right after this gets passed. So what we're doing right now is we're looking at staffing ratios, we're looking at different wage comparisons for our support staff, and that'll all become a part of the package that we bring forward for staffing in March-ish. Yep.
Thank you for answering both prongs of that question.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah. Oh,
All right, let's go to
It's like,
the
oh, yeah.
agenda item on the voucher impact information. This is coming through this committee, Finance and Facilities Committee, basically because it's a financial issue. And also, out of a request to have voucher information and the impact of the vouchers and the cost of the vouchers put on the tax bill so the citizens of this community and surrounding area know exactly that dollar amount and what of that dollar amount goes for and how it impacts our tax levy and our tax statements and their bill to the district. It's not uncommon, in fact, it's being sought after by a number of districts in the state. And it goes that process of transparency, letting the public know exactly what their taxpayers are doing and the dollar amount and the effect of that dollar. So Mr. Abel is here because this has been an issue that Chris has talked about since I've known him for a long time. It has been a passion for him. And I think it's important for us all to understand that this is a Manitowoc Board of Education decision to bring this to the city and not a superintendent's issue. This isn't a direction by the superintendent. This is a direction by the Board of Education that would support this endeavor to the city to have voucher information placed on the tax bill. It's been done in many cities, and as Chris and I have talked, I don't know that we necessarily have to wait for a state legislative law to say it can be done. I think we can be creative and instrumental in our own right to get this done. So I'm gonna turn this over to Chris and then again, have any questions that you may have regarding this resolution presented to Chris. So go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so this initial transparency, this proposed transparency resolution, I really looked at a bunch of resolutions from different different school boards that are going to their municipalities. We will probably be, if this committee and the board approve it, we will be the fourth or fifth school district in the state to be doing this. So I took other resolutions, I sort of took the parts I liked from them and tried, I'm not a big fan of whereas, but that's the format. So I tried to make it as short as possible. The longest one is 2 pages long, 2 whole pages long, which is a little long. I'm not wed to anything that's in here. I do think it's important that we share some of our rationale. That's what the whereases are doing when we go to the city. But I tried to include some of them and you know, the first thing is, do you want to do this? And if so, then what would you like to see in the resolution so that I can have it cleaned up, work with the central office here to get the right numbers and information so that we have it for next Tuesday. Things that I think are critical are for, well, okay, let me take one step back. I apologize for doing this, but one of the things that I run into a lot with people is when people want to know, why are we assessing for so much money? When I explained to them that last year, almost 5.2 million of it was mandated by state law to come into the district and then go right out, people say, gee, I wish I'd known that. And what this does is this literally puts it on the tax bill, that right on the tax bill, it says blank amount, for the coming year. Do you have an estimate of what it
I mean,
is yet, or-
just focusing on vouchers, not special ed vouchers, but just focusing on vouchers, we're predicting $5.1 million just for the
next year?
vouchers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we would tell them, this is what it's gonna be. The reason why, and here I'll jump to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whereas is down. The reason why it has vouchers, special education, independent charter school, transportation, the reason it has it is that is exactly what the state law mandates we collect and spend for voucher, other special education, and independent charter school transportation. So the reason that's in there is because that's what they asked for. We want to cut it down to just what the vouchers are. We can do that. I do think giving them a longitudinal look at the last 2 years would make sense. It's really up to you what you'd like to see on there. I also think the whereas right above there, which shows you the increases over time from what the costs have been, helps people understand why the scale of this is critical for them to know. There is absolutely a movement at the state level to consider requiring this on local tax bills. Will the state do that? I don't know. If you wanted me to be as smart alecky as I can be, I would say we still can't get the state to spend $4 billion of surplus money that they're just sitting on right now, like a dragon on gold. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were slow moving to get this on tax bills as well. So, but this is sort of the idea of what we're looking at. Obviously, near the end where it says School District of Washburn, that's where I cut and pasted poorly, and I would change that to NPSD because I'm not as big an idiot as you think. Okay.
I guess we know where you benchmark.
Yeah. But, hey, I'd like to point out over 80%. Anyway, so what would happen after this is, suppose you said, yeah, Abel, let's do this, and this is what we want to see it say. Then next week, hopefully the full board would approve it. And then the next step would be to go to the city with this resolution and say, this is the resolution from the school district. I would then ask the city to take it up. The city is, and we are separate entities of governments. The city is under no obligation, because we asked them to put this on the tax bill, to do it. They really aren't. But I think if we go and ask nicely, I think it would happen. I had a meeting with the mayor where he did not seem at all troubled by this. I think, like me, he believes the transparency helps people understand where their tax dollars are going, and that's always helpful. So I think it would go through, and then and whatever the mayor would like me to do, bring it first to the full committee of the whole, or go to finance first and then go to committee of the whole. I would just take his advice on that so that we do it in a process that works best for the city. And then it's on the city to get in touch with the state and say, here's what we're gonna put. And there are, like I said, there are 4 or 5 municipalities doing this now. The state says, okay, that wording is fine, you can put that on the bill. So there are all these other steps to do, and we still have time to get there, because as you know, the city really starts working on their budget this month. I assume the mayor's going to present in about 2 weeks his budget. Then they have their budget meetings, and they do all their stuff, and hopefully by end of November, early December, they have their budget finalized to figure out their part of the tax bill. So our timing on this right now is good. I just want to know what you'd like to see on it and not see on it, so that we can build it the way you like it, if you like one.
Before we even do that, this is only for the city.
They are the
This is
ones
not
that-
Allied municipalities.
It's just the city.
It would just be the cities.
Newton, Rapids,
Correct.
Town Minute, those are not, it's not even on there. This isn't,
Correct.
okay.
Okay, any questions for Chris regarding this?
So
So-
my understanding was Green Bay, the city actually did this. It came from them.
Actually, the school board
Went to.
did the
Went to the
resolution,
city.
went to the city,
Okay.
was voted down the first year. They came back the second year, and then it was approved, because the Green Bay City Council had a significant changeover. And this was a topic of concern by voters, and they changed over to people.
And I believe Appleton is in the process of looking at this.
That
as
may
well.
have been a mistake from the board member, the CISA board member from Green Bay. You got that wrong.
Okay.
I've been talking to people on this since, since the beginning of the summer, so.
So, yeah, what do our,
Well,
what do our
now-
customers,
What
have
I-
they fed back?
Pardon me?
Have our constituents, the people we're serving, have they asked for this? Or we're advocating for it?
Well, as I've said, when I talk to people about why we're taxing at the rate we are, when I tell them that, they say, gee, I wish I'd known that. Because then they go, well, actually, I see that this is your part of it, and this is part that you're required by state law to levy.
I'm looking at this as a Manitowoc Public School District point of transparent information to the taxpayers. For a number of years, they have asked why the tax bill keeps going up. Why is your levy going up? Why? Well, now we're in a process where we're capable, in one step, of helping them understand what this voucher program and all these separate entities under this voucher program, how it impacts their tax levy. So I see it as a point of information. What are we trying to hide? Why wouldn't we want them to know what they're being taxed for? I see it as totally honest information and how it affects. So it's not a city, and it's not, like I said prior to this is not a superintendent. This is a board helping our community understand why their tax bill is the way it is and what all impacts that tax bill.
So Nate, you said about 5.1 million. Why did you take the special ed number on?
It's just that's called out very specifically on the spreadsheet that they give us from the state when you do the aid certification.
And we don't know
That number stands alone by itself, so and then when I'm working in the Baird model to look at projections and things like that, that number just always,
Yeah,
like,
that's the one you know.
they're separate, so that's the one that just always pops out to me. It's just vouchers.
So 5.1 is what percentage of our budget?
I mean, it's 5%, I mean, it's basically $100 million
Okay.
budget, so.
So 5%.
But our levy isn't.
A levy.
Last year, it was 5.11,
So that.
and that was 18.8% of our levy. It was almost.
So I guess
So
that's what I was
20% of our levy
Yeah,
is
1/5.
voucher.
Yeah,
Right, so 20.
and that's why I think it's significant enough.
Because 20%, if we can't really say what that's being spent on. I mean, we have no control over that, and I guess that's right. I kind of like the transparency thing about, we just have to tax this, but we really don't have control over how it's.
That particular.
And you should know that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the part that because we tax for it, we should be able to let people know, as with the rest of our budget, what we're spending it on. You know, if people come up and say, well, why are you spending this on, you know, on Jefferson, or where's this money? We really can't say where the other 19% goes.
Okay, so what I'm looking for now from this committee is a motion to move this to the full board. A motion to move the voucher impact information to the full board. And then another motion for the board to nominate Chris as the spokesperson for the board to present this to the city. I think these resolutions can be tweaked. I don't think it needs to be a major board action to do this. I think it can be information from board members to help Chris if they want to talk to him, do with him. But then the board can approve the full resolution prior to going to the city. So I think it can be, we don't need a special facilities committee meeting to rewrite these resolutions, as much as if you have some questions about statements or how it's put together, Chris can work with Nathan on these numbers. If you have a language concern, Chris can work with you on that language, so that it can be prepared and presented to the board on the 14th and get it to the full board discussion prior to going to the city. So that's what I'm looking for out of this committee, is a motion to move this resolution to the full board, and then at that full board meeting to appoint Chris Abel as the board's spokesman. Now, maybe we can do that at the board meeting and don't have to do that here. At the board, make that nomination for him. And we'll just take it then. I think that makes more sense. So I'm looking for a motion then to move this resolution on the voucher, on the tax bill, to the full board.
Can I get some clarification? We're talking just the vouchers now, because now you're talking, you had special ed, you had all of these other things here,
No, we're talking vouchers.
just the vouchers. So all of these other items come out?
Correct.
Okay.
And just so I understand then, so Chris, what you'll do is you'll take and finalize this and then put it on for the 14th?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But you guys will have to dig out the number.
Oh, sure, of course.
Tomorrow.
I know you did, pass it on this time.
Tomorrow, it's all good.
So I need a motion.
I will move to do this. If I can do that, I'm a member of the committee, so I will do that.
Correct.
I'll move this to the full board for discussion and vote.
Okay, second? I'll second it. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
You're opposing this?
I think it needs more discussion and fleshing out.
Okay, motion passed. It'll go to the full board on the 14th. Thank you, Chris.
Sure. I'll cut out that stuff and we'll see what you guys think in a week.
All right. Any other information, any other things for the good of the meeting? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks, Dave.